Warning, the video you're about to watch is going to make you want to spend money on your Tacoma. Carry on. Welcome back to the Tacomaholic channel, everybody. I hope you're ready for another awesome audio upgrade for the second gen Tacoma, because I sure know I am. Okay guys, today we will be installing the popular Subaru Tweeter kit. These are from Kicker, so they're not like Subaru brand. They are very high quality. I'll put a link in the description below where you can grab these. It comes with 2 tweeters and hardware to install it. This is a massive upgrade over the factory tweeters you can see right here. Now my truck is the non-JBL version, so I'm not sure if the JBL version actually comes with JBL tweeters, but here are the old ones. And again, just like with the door speakers I removed, feels like it's made out of paper versus the Kicker, which they've been around forever. You know this is a high quality brand. Now for the 3rd gen Tacomas, this is literally plug and play, where I believe the adapter harness plugs right into the back of the tweeter. Not exactly the case for the 2nd gen Tacomas. However, thanks to Black Cat on Tacoma World, I'll link his thread below where he goes over this. That's what I use to do this mod, and it is relatively easy, assuming you have the tools to do it. So big thanks to him. Check out his thread. Just a few minor modifications needed to make this tweeter work. No splicing, no soldering, no electrical skills needed. In addition to all the tools you need to do this, patience is a virtue. You'll see what I'm talking about in just a second. And here's what you get with the kit. Obviously you do get 2 of the Kicker Tweeters. I have already installed the one for the driver's side. Oh, one of them just blew away, but you do get 4 of these genuine Subaru through M5 tap screws, which I will not be using, but since these are genuine parts, I bet I could sell these for like $5 a piece. Tools needed to do this install: some kind of small poker bit. A smaller flathead screwdriver might work, but I like using this one. A couple small flathead screwdrivers, I mean really small, like this one you'll see a little later on. An X-Acto knife, a few pairs of pliers, regular needle nose, and I'm just using like electrical ones. I like using these snips to trim off a piece of plastic later on. You will see 10mm socket and ratchet, and I suppose you don't have to use a Dremel tool, but if you don't have a Dremel tool, this is going to be a lot more difficult, so I definitely recommend a Dremel tool. If you're working on your truck anyway, it's good to have one of these with a grinding cutting wheel and a smaller circular bit to sand down some plastic. And then I'm going to recommend some black electrical tape. As always, links for all of this stuff down in the video description below. I will be showing you guys the install on the passenger side. Already did the driver's side. Everything's working just fine. So of course, first step, you do of course have to remove the door panel. If you don't know how to do this, well, who's looking out for you? Got a video tutorial on that right above. With the door panel removed, we are going to go ahead and unplug the tweeter. You can see right up here in the top left corner of the door. Go ahead and take something like a small screwdriver or a small metal poker like I'm using in this case. There's a hole bracket holding the tweeter in place, you can see right here, but hanging down on the left side and the passenger side at least, there's a small hole right here. You can take this and you have to depress the tab and sort of lever it out, and this whole unit will come unplugged. Once you have the plug free of that metal tab right here, go ahead and unplug it from the bottom of the wire harness. With the harness unplugged right there, the factory tweeter is held in with 2 10mm bolts, one right here on the right and the other on the left. Go ahead and take your socket and remove those. After those bolts are removed, the tweeter does slide out. The magnet will probably grab the bare metal door, so just be aware of that and try not to snag the harness on anything. You will be reusing those 2 bolts you took out, so save those, make sure you don't lose them. Next up, toward the end of the install, you do need a lot of extra slack to get the plug up and over to actually plug into the tweeter up here. So you can see there is electrical tape everywhere. We are going to remove the ring right here, the one right below that, and then the large mass right down here. Some of these you can see on mine, they're oriented so I can just actually start peeling them and, you know, unwound it that way. If yours aren't, I suppose you could take your X-Acto knife and very carefully cut them free. Obviously you don't want to nick any of the wires. So I'm going to go ahead and remove all the electrical tape. And there it is. You can see everything loose. Got plenty of slack now to work with this. And if you've never removed this wiring for the, I guess it's the audio, I don't know, but this factory electrical tape is super sticky, so chances are you're probably going to wash your hands afterwards, because, I don't know, I feel like Spider-Man now. I could crawl right up a wall.
Spider-Man.
I think we can all agree that so far the install has been relatively painless, super easy to follow. Well, now is the fun part. It starts to get a little more interesting because we have to trim down the plastic pieces on the factory connector so they will actually plug into the back of the new Kicker Tweeter. I'm going to show you the way I did it, which worked fine for me. You can follow that way, or when you start looking at it, you'll see what's hitting where and what you need to trim. So again, if you just be patient here, take your time, you'll be fine. First step to get this to fit, this is the plastic tab you can see right in the middle. The right side, when you're looking at it like this, is the part you press, so that is not attached to the base. The left side is, so we need to remove this whole thing. If you have a pair of these like short nose C cutters, you can really just get it in there. I'm going to try to see if I can get this on camera so it actually shows. Grab it right here at the top and you'll clip off the whole arm of it. Squeeze that down. You will not be reusing this piece, so that's why you have to completely remove it. And that will just leave the front part here exposed. So the next step, I'm going to take my Dremel with a small sanding circle right here, sanding cylinder, and I'm going to get that completely flush with the bottom. In addition to this piece, I'm going to try to twist this because this is all still connected. When you're looking at the end like that after you clip it, the piece on the right here also has to be flush. The one on the left also flush, even though it doesn't stick up nearly as far. And then on the back, these two pieces also need to come down, but instead of using the Dremel on those, you can take these snips and just cut those off. I'm not going to really show that process because it's a lot of fine tuning, but again, advice for this, just take your time. I got them all the way down completely flush with a plastic, so it's a flat plane, but just take off a little at a time and see what's going to fit in the back of the Kicker Tweeter. Take your time, don't rush it, don't try to take off too much at once, and you'll be fine. And got the first part of the trimming process done. You can see I've got this relatively flat, so it will slide into the opening of the new Kicker Tweeter. I've got it trimmed down so it will slide in, but you have to force it a little bit so it is a little tight, which I prefer.
That's what she said.
You don't want this trimmed down so far that it just slides right in so it can jiggle and potentially come free. So I did all the shaving on this one side where the factory clip was that you initially snip off. After that, you're going to take your Dremel, same round grinding bit, and there is like a fin on the back here you can see. When you plug this in, it will actually hit on the, I guess, the dome part of the surround, the plastic on the tweeter. So I'm going to take about half of the length of this off, which literally looks like, I don't know, maybe 1/8 of an inch max. So I'm going to go ahead and shave that down. So when this slides in, it'll go in parallel versus going in at an angle. And I got everything trimmed down. Going to go ahead and do a full test fit now just to make sure everything's sliding in properly. And the way this goes in, you can see that white clip in here. You want to orient this when you're sliding it in so the white clip is pointed towards the tweeter, not away. And again, I did mine so it's tight, but it still slides in. Go ahead and grab it, you don't want to damage anything. And just sort of get it in there with your fingers. Slides right in like that, nice tight fit. And to remove it, I'm just going to grab either side with my needle nose pliers and shimmy it back out. Alright guys, at this point, the first of the challenging parts of the install is done. You got the plug to actually fit. Now we need to work on these wires. On the driver's side, they are purple and pink. This is the passenger side. They are blue and green. You can see they are alternating blue, green, and same with the other colors on the driver's side. What we need to do is get this to line up so it is blue, blue, and green, green. And I believe in Black Cat's write-up, he said it doesn't matter where the wires go as long as they are together, so blue, blue, green, green, or vice versa. Double check that, and again, I definitely encourage you to check out his write-up so you can see written instructions for what I'm doing here on the video. In his write-up, he actually removes all 4 of these wires and realigns them. I can't remember who it posted on Tacoma World, but someone else said they just removed the middle 2 wires and flipped those and it worked just fine. That is what I did on the driver's side, just pulled out the 2 middle wires and flipped them because you can obviously see that would line it up blue, blue, green, green. But to get to those, we need to disconnect a few things first. The first of those being this white clip in here. You will be reusing this to secure the wires that you pull out So this is where you have to exercise as much patience as you have in your whole body. Grab a very small flathead screwdriver and pry this out. I'll show like a time lapse on camera of me doing mine, but again, take your time, don't try to force it. Just do it a little at a time, like on the bottom, then maybe in the middle, then the top, like fractions of a millimeter at a time. And this, when I did it on the driver's side, the whole thing, when it actually came loose, it finally like popped free. You will see the bottom part, the way I have it oriented right here, there is an extra tab that the top does not have. At first I thought I broke that tab off, but don't worry. Just one side has this tab right here. And you can see on camera I had it like 80% released rather quickly, and this last part right here with that tab, if that shows up, it took like, I don't know, 5 times longer than the rest of it. So I was just patient, you're just trying to get it on there and lever it up so you're not snapping it. And I actually was able to get this one off without it flying like 10 feet away, so that is good. Again, save this, you will need it later. Next up, we do need to release these tabs that actually hold the wires in place, and like I mentioned, I am just going to be taking out the 2 middle tabs, or taking out the 2 middle wires right here and flip-flopping them, so those are the tabs I'm going to remove. Again, I'm using my extremely small flathead screwdriver. These are a lot easier to take out, just be careful not to break them, but if you do, don't worry, you could use something to adhere these in here, like hot glue or something. Not like they're going to be moving around a ton anyway, but try to be as careful as you possibly can. I'm going to take my tiny flathead screwdriver and just get it under here. I'm going to see if this is going to show up on camera. And they sort of bend up out of place, so I'm trying to grab it in the middle or to the right side right there. Again, take your time. It's actually sitting on top of the wire, so that's where you want to try to pry. And instead of like prying up like a lever, I have it under there. I've got the screwdriver in between the small plastic tab and the wire, and I'm just sort of twisting it counterclockwise, and you can see that humps it up, pops it out of the way. So you just want to get it loose enough so you can pull the wire out. That way it's easier to reinstall, and I think that's good right there. Again, do that for whichever wires you're going to take out. In my case, just the middle 2. Once you get those plastic tabs removed, we do need to take the wires out so we can swap them. What I did, it's worked for me. I only used 1 pair of pliers. I was able to hold this firmly enough and grab the wire carefully, of course, with the pliers so as not to damage it. And just, you can spread these apart a little bit so you can actually get it in there. And then grab the wire right here at the neck and then gently pull it out. When you do that, it's probably not going to show up on camera, but you may have to pop the tab up just a little bit more because there's like a hook in here on the end of the wire, a metal hook that will actually grab the tab. So if it's doing that, check to make sure so you're not pulling in vain, and you might have to pop this up just a little bit more to get it free to pull that out. Got the first wire out, and I wanted to show you real quick, right here to the right of my thumbnail, that's that little like depression in the metal of the wire termination. that can get stuck on the back of the tab right here that you will have to, when you're pulling it out, you'll quickly see if it's catching back there. So you can take that screwdriver and prop this up just a little bit more. And that's what mine looks like, if that helps you out with any kind of reference. Any more than that and it might break free. And I'll just remove the second wire. Okay, this second wire really gave me a lot of trouble compared to the first green wire. So what I ended up doing after struggling with it for way longer than needed, I ended up just pushing the wire back in because, again, the plastic was catching in this depression right here by my finger. I pushed the wire back in and then pried the plastic up out of it, even though I was sort of resisting doing that because I felt like I got like the wire halfway out, so I didn't want to lose progress, but that's what I ended up doing, and it worked out just fine. So now with both the green and blue wires removed, we are just going to reinsert them so blue is next to blue and green is next to green. Push it as far back as it will go so you're not seeing any of the metal once it's completely plugged in, and hopefully you will hear a click. And then take your pliers or your fingers and compress the plastic clips right here. When you get the wires pushed back in and you are pushing those plastic tabs back down to hold the wires, first of all, make sure the wires, give them a little tug just to make sure they're secure, even though we still have that other white plastic piece that will secure everything. But you want to make sure those tabs, when you're looking at it from the side, are completely flush. Otherwise, of course, this is not going to fit in the tweeter. So next up, you just take that plastic piece, and that will pop back in. You should be able to do this with your fingers. You can see right there, like my plastic tab, that one's a little bent. You want to make sure all these slots are nice and parallel, so I'm going to get my screwdriver and straighten that out. Once you get that white plastic tab back in there, sort of put your thumbnail on each of the ridges right there and press it until it clicks. Hopefully you'll be able to hear this on camera. Well, of course that one didn't click, but the other ones did, and that is completely flush, so that should be holding all the plugs, wires, nice and securely now. So now I am going to plug this into the tweeter. I'm not going to reinstall anything else yet because this is an excellent time to go ahead and make sure the tweeter is actually working and you are getting sound out of it. And to really test it out, on your stereo settings, I'm doing the passenger side door, so I'm going to move the speaker output to the front right of the vehicle so I can really hear what the tweeter sounds like. Now, I'm sure what you guys heard on camera was completely crappy to how it sounds in real life, but trust me, these are a massive high-end, like high sound quality upgrade over the factory tweeters. No, you're not going to get bass out of these. That's not what they're designed for, but I am super pumped with the results of this. So now we need to tuck the wiring. I just bolted this in just so it's not like hanging down. This isn't how they go, so I'm going to unbolt that and show you how to get the wiring so you can get these. Right now this one's even upside down, so properly installed in just a second. Okay guys, to actually get the Kicker tweeter installed so it's oriented, you can see with the Kicker logo properly, you'll see the barcode right there. The barcode sticker will go towards the top. But that is also where the plug is. That's why I earlier told you you need to remove all that electrical tape down here that's holding this tightly, because you have a lot more slack now. You can sort of feed this up and around. So the easiest way to do this, you're going to feed that up and plug it in and make sure you pull everything up. And again, if you don't have enough slack down here, maybe there's another piece of electrical tape you could unwind to do that, but I had plenty of slack doing it just this way. Actually, I take that back. I also remembered I removed this first piece right here because it's like holding this whole cluster onto a plastic tab right here. So I'm going to go ahead and remove that one, and then that will free this up like just another 1/2 inch to 3/4 of an inch so you have slack to plug it in to the top of where the tweeter goes. And here's that plastic tab I was talking about if I move the wires out of the way. That was just holding it down just enough so it's pulling it, so you don't want to have this too tight and put any extra pressure up where it plugs in, because when it plugs in, it is just going to hook over and plug in like that. So now I'm going to run the wire up. You want to have this behind the metal bracket, of course. Get the tweeter in place, plug it in, and bolt everything down. And there's the tweeter fully installed. Again, you will use those factory bolts to attach this. There's what it looks like from the back. It is tight, but there is still enough slack in here, so these can move a little bit if you pull up on the wire. I mean, it is tight, but it will work. Now I suppose you could leave it like this, but I like to keep everything sort of cleaned up, so I'm going to get some electrical tape. Like I'm going to tape the tweeter wires together I'm going to retape the bottom right here, and then over here I'm going to leave these ones loose because these are the ones that actually plug into your window and door lock when you get the door panel back on. I suppose you could use zip ties for that, but that just leaves like a piece of plastic in here that could potentially rattle on the metal of the door, which of course you don't want. And there's how I did my electrical tape right around the tweeter wires. The wires running up to your windows right here because those were loose and a long strand. And then right over here where I removed it to get it off that plastic tab, I clumped all these together. Now all you need to do is reinstall the door panel and you are done. Alright everybody, that is it for the second Gen Tacoma Subaru Kicker Tweeter upgrade. Again, big thanks to Black Cat on Tacoma World for taking the time to do the research and the write-up for this. That thread is linked down below, so check that out, then watch the video and do this install yourself. I gotta be honest, I am enjoying these audio upgrades, and I feel like this is one of those things, once you start, it puts you down a path where you never want to stop, so I have a few more audio upgrades planned for the truck. If you guys are enjoying the audio upgrades, like with the door speaker install, please comment, let me know, smash the like button. That's the only way I can really tell if you guys are enjoying these, and of course it will help the channel grow. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, if you love everything related to Tacomas and feeding that Tacoma addiction. As always, thanks so much for supporting the channel by watching this video. Enjoy the rest of your week, and I'll see you in the next video.